All right, Greg. It's John.
Hi, John. How you doing today?
Did you guys have a pull request?
Yeah, I put in one.
Okay.
Hi guys, good afternoon.
There. I'm glad. Hope you're feeling better.
Yeah, a little better, but this winter is tough, really tough. How you guys doing?
Oh, pretty good. Things are warming up around here.
Yeah, so we can maybe get started because soon we'll join a little later. Um, there is one update I wanted to give you guys. We had a lot of back and forth with our legal team. Hi, Kasun. Especially around the matter that some of the code our vendor developed, and we had it to do clearance on being able to release this code. And actually, based on our agreement, we own the code. So even if it was developed by vendor, we free to do what we want. Today we had final meeting with the legal team, and the instructions they gave us that we will create public repo. I think that Kasun, did you already start doing it, or you will be doing it later, maybe today or tomorrow?
Tomorrow. I need to look at the instructions.
Yeah, they shared clear instructions with us. The way it will work, we will release it on public branch that we will share with the community, and then we will need to fill up some template internally. We will need to get our organization VP approval, and then we have some organizations that treating open source. So once it's released, we will need to find all the signatures. We will need to apply the license and everything, and so it can be released to completely open source, and it will be owned by OCP. So this is the goal. So sorry for delay. I know we promised to do it probably almost 2 quarters ago, and we were ready to release it, but then we didn't get clear instructions from the legal team. So we had to hold back and wait until they make their mind. Do you have any questions about it?
Well, that's definitely good to hear. So what exactly is the timeline then?
So the timeline is we will send link to everyone probably on Monday, and everyone will be able to access this repository. Technically speaking, one of the reasons also why legal team hold back, and we try to understand what's the difference between us putting it in public branch and us as a Google owning the branch versus us releasing it completely to OCP. We as a team, we wanted it to be released to OCP, and also legal team got convinced. What they mentioned to us that if we keep it even in public branch owned by Google, then a lot of vendors or a lot of people like you guys will be even hesitant to use it because you will not feel confident if Google will change their mind later or not. So our goal basically to make it fully open for everyone and for everyone to feel confident to use it. So
Okay,
this
good,
is
good. So licensing on it. So is it BSD or is it what
they
licensing is going to?
they call it Apache 2.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's no difference in this license. And the main reason we wanted it also to be part of the OCP because we don't want to be the only maintainers. We don't have resources to fully maintain. We want community to own it and maintain. And if any one of you guys or anyone else finding any problems, they should be able to submit this code. They also part of this agreement. They do ask us to be active members of this group. So they're asking if we have it on our roadmap to participate in those conversations, and we said yes. It doesn't take a lot, but we are planning to continue contributing to this group. So this is also one of their conditions. Yeah, so Kasun, do you want to add anything to this?
Yeah, so I'll look at the new instructions they gave us. I'm not exactly sure we'll be able to create the public host by Monday. Maybe we'll have to wait for some permissions, so maybe it'll be safer to keep like 2 weeks for it, I feel like. But the code will appear on Google owned public repository. Once we have it there, then as Vlad mentioned, we need to go through a second approval process to transfer the code to the Open Compute host.
Yeah. But what I meant by Monday, I meant we will share URL of this public repo owned by Google.
Okay. Yeah.
So technically speaking, people will be able to, you guys will be able to clone it and start working on it. But yeah, there will be some process that we need to follow to completely move it to basically what they call third party.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying. If it wasn't clear, what we will release on Monday will be still owned by Google because we are obligated to follow some instructions and process. Then we will need to run some internal approvals. And by the way, you look on the instructions, is it just approvals or they're asking us to do something?
I didn't go through it yet.
Okay.
I think she hasn't updated the bug yet, so I did.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. We need to ping our legal team because we had a meeting with them today and they promised to. We have a bug that we communicated over bug with the legal team. We will ask them. She told us that she will update the bug, but maybe we will need to ping her. But public repo, let's target to release it on Monday. Send it to me or just reply to this email that I sent agenda today morning with link to this URL. So everyone will be able to take it. But she even mentioned to us herself that sometimes vendor hesitant to adopt it as long as it's owned by Google. So we definitely
Okay.
don't want it to be in this situation.
Okay, I think that we're done with that topic. So are we. Well, is there any other information? Because we have other agenda items we need to take care of.
Yeah, so I put another item because we have some internal talks at Google about adapting it beyond the project that we have right now. And basically, we think, yeah.
But can we hold that discussion? We have some things
Sure.
we need to close on, okay?
Okay.
So 2 agenda items. One is, I think Greg has a pull request he needs to go through and for us to approve and merge to the GitHub. And then I have basically an announcement about about Ursa. So I'll go through my really quickly. So there's been a contribution of a PCI add-in card which has an AMC on it by Microchip and Intel, and it's a hardware design, and it was approved by OCP. I think just this week, so it's now public. And so if someone wants to build a piece of hardware, there's now a design spec for it to be used. So in addition, the hardware management project leads have expanded the charter for this group to cover not only software, the open source stuff, but also the hardware. So if there are future AMC designs, that they would also go through this workstream. Okay, any questions? So they actually have the same, I guess, controller that you have. So it's quite possible we could drop your software firmware directly on their piece of hardware, because they are contributing their hardware, but they're not contributing their firmware. So if you're contributing software, they may mate with their hardware. So that's why I like to see it come out.
What micro do they use?
I do not know, but
was fixing to say, is this PCB and microchip, or is it just schematics, or is it?
It is PCB.
Okay.
I believe it's the entire design for the pattern card.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so with that, I'm done with mine. So I want to give Greg some time because we've got
Yeah,
20 minutes
so-
left.
Yeah, so this is just an update to where I've done a pull request to add, to fill out, to further enhance the security section of the document. You want to go over it here, or should
Yep.
we just give people time to go out and review it?
Let's walk through it.
Okay. One second. So one question I have about how we want to do this. So my pull request, I'm actually going to my branch of this. I guess my changes won't show up on the main GitHub repo until it's actually accepted. So I'll be looking at a copy of mine. Let's see here. There it is. And let me know if everybody can see that. So what
Okay,
I've done is
we can see your pull request from the GitHub.
okay, but can you actually see the code change?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll use that then.
Oh, it looks like the whole document changed.
Well, so I did a 1.2 version. I didn't know. I put an updated version out there to instead of updating the 1.1, I created a 1.2 version in my pull request. I'm not sure if that's how we want to do this or not.
Probably not.
Okay, we want to be able to see the changes, right?
Yeah, somebody should have done a release tag on the 1.0 or the 1.1. I don't know if that actually happened.
Okay.
I don't think it happened.
Yeah. We probably ought to do a release on top of tree before we merge any pulls.
Right.
But if you can go through the diff on your machine, we'll.
Yeah. So basically, most of this is most of the information here is new. This is gleaned from the OCP NVMe specifications, specifically their SPDM requirements. I pulled a lot of that information from that doc for this document. Do we want to go through each one of these bullets?
Sure.
Okay. Basically, the first one is just essentially the minimum for SPDM. The previous one we had, I think, was 1.1, and they updated to 1.22. So I've updated our document to reflect that. And then just they require backwards compatibility with 1.1, with the exception of the Indianness of the signature. So that's been added. So basically, everything you're seeing in this section is new. Comply with the revised PCI SIG component measurement and authentication that was published in 2023. And if somebody has an issue or a further clarification they want to make, just step in as I'm reading these. SPDM 1, supporting SPDM over MCTP, we already had that 1.1 or later. Comply with secure messages using SPDM version 1.1.1. Binding specification of 1.02 or later. These were specific to these next couple are for requirements that were specific to the the NVMe doc. They were things that they said it could be dropped in the main SPDM spec. They specified that you could not do that. So must not drop the responsive respond if ready is not received within WT max amount of time. Be ready to respond to SPDM request within a maximum of 2 seconds after main power is applied.
What is meant by be ready?
That was a question I actually had that we might want to clarify. I'm assuming that
Respond to requests received, I think is what it means.
So to put normative words that spell shall respond.
Well, it says shall up there, and then it has the whole
Okay.
bullet
All right.
list.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Shall, as long as there's something normative. We're okay.
Yeah. Be ready to respond to SPDM requests. Okay, that means Yeah, respond to SPDM requests if received after the 2 seconds. I don't know.
That was one I threw
That's-
in, but had questions whether or not we would be able to.
I can guarantee a DPU wouldn't be able to do that. There's some devices that wouldn't, but I could see that as a should.
Okay.
Certainly a NIC or a array controller or something like that should be able to do it. There are some things where that firmware takes a bit.
All right, I've got that note. A interpacket delay shall be less than 40 milliseconds. Anybody have any issues with that?
That's reasonable.
And a data transfer size of 4 kilobytes.
I think some of our requirements would make that out. So you should, yeah.
And again, these next two bullets were specified because these are technically more restrictive than the main SPDM specification. So they want you to respond with the error message instead of dropping it, and not dropping requests received out of order. Any issues with those more restrictive requirements?
So this section just greatly enlarges the section in 1.0, right? Because there's like a one-liner in 1.0.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
this
punted.
is-
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought was happening. Okay,
Yeah,
got it.
this is a complete expansion. So that was a very basic that we had there. There was a few actually requester. I had one table out there had some requester requirements that we had internally. That's been changed to basically match this other document, which changes those requester requirements to responder requirements. And that's what this table here represents. So yes, this has been expanded on greatly from the 1.0 document.
Yeah, the SPDM spec has requirements on these tables. I was just looking at it today due to some issues. And we made it so that you could get away with just responding to measurements, and that was it, which won't do it all for everything else in OCP. It's fine for the standard, but it's not for a practical product. So you've got to do digest, insert, and I hope negotiate and finishes in here too.
Negotiate.
Key exchange and
Okay.
response are both required. Cool.
This one right here.
No. I don't care about PSK.
Oh,
The two
this
above
guy.
it, 64 and
Okay.
65.
Okay, gotcha.
And you got a typo in 66. Need
All
a
right.
space. Need a space in there.
I will fix that. Yep.
Okay.
So basically, this is essentially what we had in the previous 1.0 documentation, just changed the response side and then expanded upon based upon some of the requirements that were the NVMe guys were looking to enforce. Anything in particular,
Okay.
John, that
So
Jeff or
so
John
you're
may want to
saying
discuss?
so you're saying that this existed in 1.0?
Well, no, I had a much smaller table, and it was from the other perspective, from the requester perspective, as opposed to the responder request perspective.
Okay.
So I just switched it
Yeah.
around.
Which is the right thing to do. You're putting requirements on the responder
Yeah.
versus you got to be able to transmit these. I don't know if we need the other one. That you got to be able to receive these.
Oh, they're saying, should we go back and add what we had in there before?
Probably have them both
Okay.
with
Okay.
different shalls, right?
Yeah. Okay. I'll work on that.
Wait a minute. Why are we adding back the other? This one, this I understand, right? Because
Because this is the stuff you have to be able to transmit. What about the received requests, right? If somebody, I've got to be able to respond to a get version request with a version response. There's no shall that says you got to handle the things coming in. This is just messages going out.
Oh, okay.
You need both. Don't you think? I mean, if you think this is sufficient,
No. Go ahead and add it. So
Okay.
the object is to specify this so it's interoperable, right? So yes,
Yep.
if we need to say thou shalt respond to these messages requests,
Yep.
then yeah, we need to add it.
All right. Any other items that look off to Jeff or John or anybody else in the call in this table. I'll fix the typo and I'll get the requester side back in there.
Oh, they're doing key update. Huh. I don't know that we need the encapsulated requests or the key update.
Encapsulated request or key update.
I
Okay,
mean, we
so-
got CSR and set cert, right? Those make sense because I gotta issue a CSR and I gotta get my certificate, be able to set cert. Key update is only if you support multi-key, and I don't think we've required multi-key. Encapsulated requests, encapsulated responses for mutual auth. And so I don't think we were requiring mutual auth either. That they might.
all right, so far just 69 and 6A.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, and 6B.
and 6B. All right.
Error is required. And that is required. That makes sense.
So there on those are so far the table looks okay.
It'll be interesting to get feedback on the algorithms. Scroll up.
Yeah, so this is these algorithms, the algorithms that I have put in come from our old document. So this did not come from the ME documentation. This just was copy and paste over from what we required previously.
Well, we've discussed this a lot in other forums, and everybody prefers the 384 because it doesn't have the same, shall we say, security profile problems that 256 does.
Hmm. So you're okay with this as it is right now?
Yeah.
So what is meant by allow and preferred if the overall box is required?
You got to support at least one algorithm. Actually, you probably ought to support. Yeah,
So shouldn't,
because BaseM algo is only if you're doing key exchange, and measurement hash algo is just for the measurements, which they're both required. So I think you got to have one of each though.
but that's what needs to be expressed in that last column because without that, I don't know how to read this.
Required one from each category.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I mean that's how in my brain that is the one that's how I meant that to be read as one from each category, correct? If I can make that more clear. Right. Moving on, if we don't have any other feedback on the table here, we have SPDM certificate requirements. Again, this is completely from the NVMe document that was published. Jeff, do we want any items we want to point out here specifically that might cause people pause?
I mean, I would think everybody, self-sign's prohibited. You got to see a root. An alias or device cert in slot 0 is kind of redundant with the SPDM spec, but it never hurts. And mezcap makes sense too.
And then I think the final, and then this table here. So moving on to firmware measurements. These are the values that were required from this bulleted item here. The fine measurement and the block type and the measurement block types.
So manifest and a mutable firmware, that makes sense. Everybody seems to be doing that, so. Recently
Everything else.
activated firmware, all devices. Reference, yeah. RIM is a very TCG Word. There's other ways to get it, but I think the world could figure that out.
Okay.
You get that with your firmware block on MCTP firmware update, so you don't have to get it through a RIM. But everyone implementing it should know that.
So in that table on the first row, why do you even have 1B if digest is required?
That's a good point. Should be 10B, right? That's
Yeah, you're just saying what the possible values are. Raw
Right,
bit
so-
streams evil.
Right, so just remove raw bit stream, just say required, and then you can just make the right column required.
Yeah,
all
zero
right.
B required. Good point. We got 4 minutes.
All right, sorry. I was
No,
just
that's
writing,
fine.
writing down my
So,
notes.
and then we get to glossary. So I suggest we don't merge the pull. John, somebody with authority needs to do a release of what's top of tree right now, so that he can do a pull against top of tree instead of creating a whole new doc.
Oh, well, right. So you want it tagged out.
Yeah, tag it.
Okay. I'm not sure I know how to do that, but I'll figure it out.
It's not hard.
I assume it's not. Okay.
So essentially, I'll be pulling the document down again and just editing it, and then do a pull request on the original document so we can look at the actual changes.
And that'll give everybody a month to which is good.
So so you mentioned that a lot of the SPDM requirements were pulled from another specification.
Yeah, the OCP NVMe specification, the SPDM section.
Okay. So that's for storage, right?
Yeah.
So we plan it to all possibilities of AMC, or we just applying it to the storage possibility of AMC?
I think most of this is what everybody should be doing. If they had a doc they could reference, they would. It might not hurt to run this past the NIC workstream, see if they're okay with these requirements. That'll give you both a storage and a NIC, and that's kind of least common denominator for an AMC.
Okay, so yeah, so up at the table, there's a number of other ones, right? So
Because without most of this stuff, you're not going to be able to validate the device. I mean, you know, you got to have the manifest, you got to have the firmware. When it goes back up to the beginning, you got to be able to do identity management. You got to be
Right.
able to do
so
change.
so all the stuff you just said, is that somewhere in this document in some section?
It's in this SPDM section that you just added. It wasn't there before.
Okay. No. As far as that text of why we're adding this section, all this other all these additional capabilities.
Oh, scroll up. I don't know what you did for an intro.
I didn't do much of one.
Okay.
But I can add one.
Needs an intro.
Yeah, I think that's what we need. That's
All
like,
right.
yeah, we weren't lightweight last time, but in order for something to be real, right, you have to add all this stuff in before.
And when you're done with updating the file, send a message to that reflector and say, hey, here's the pull. I'm ready for comments.
All right.
Because I didn't get any kind of notification. I don't know why.
Yeah, there's not many people who are tracking that repo, I don't think.
I must be it. I'm going to check.
Yeah, you have to turn on notifications.
I may not have it on.
Yeah, I know I didn't say it either, so you can presume no one else has. So okay.
You have unread notifications.
So we have 1 minute left. Vlad, I don't think we're going to get back to your topic.
No, it's fine. It's fine. We're out of time. So we will release it on next week, and let's talk next month.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Sounds
Great.
good.
Thank you.
Thanks.